Good afternoon and welcome to a very special day at the London International Financial Futures and Options Exchange. Over the years there have been many special days. Remember 1982 when LIFFE moved into the Royal Exchange? Remember the 5th anniversary? That was quite a party. And only at the end of last year, leaving the Royal Exchange and moving here to Cannonbridge. But today is truly special, a royal occasion. We are to be honoured by a visit from Her Majesty the Queen and His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh. And to say that the atmosphere here is one of excitement would be an understatement indeed. There is a buzz. Preparations have been going on now for months. Everything is ready for what will, without doubt, be an exciting and a colourful occasion. Now, the royal family are due to arrive, or the royal party are due to arrive, in a few minutes at 4 o'clock. In the meantime, we'll have the opportunity to talk to some of the senior executives here at the Exchange and to have a look at the route that the royal party will be following. But first, let's go over to, if you like, what this is all about, the new trading floor. And here it is, 25,000 square feet of trading floor, approximately 2.5 times the size of the floor at the Royal Exchange. In the right-hand side of the picture at the moment, you can see the side of the Gilts Pit. There's been a certain amount of frisson earlier in the day in the Gilts Pit. There was a suggestion that perhaps base rates would change. They haven't, but still there's a lot of lively activity down there. In the centre, of course, you can see a considerable number of yellow jackets. For those not familiar with the Exchange, I should perhaps explain that they're often carrying messages. To get a feel for the occasion, earlier this afternoon I spoke to the chairman of the Exchange, David Burton. And I must start by asking you how you feel at this moment. Very proud, I would guess.
I think everyone is very proud who's been involved in it, Mark. I mean, it takes me back to the opening, the official opening in September '82, when we had quite a gathering then, and I think that was just as exciting in its own way as it is today. The target at that time, as I've just mentioned, was 5,000 contracts per day by the end of the first year. We just achieved that in the 11th month. Today we're doing just around about 250,000 contracts per day, so there's quite a difference.
So it takes us a few minutes to do the 5,000 contracts.
It does rather, but I think everyone's very excited about today and what's going to happen in the next few moments.
There have been a number of highlights over the years, haven't there? I remember the 5th anniversary, for example, as quite an occasion for the Exchange.
Well, it was an occasion for people who had to suffer 5 dinners in the course of 5 evenings, and it took us back to that time when Brian Williamson was then chairman. And I think everyone at that time enjoyed themselves, but of course 5 years ago is a long time, and much has happened since then.
What about the characters of the individual chairman? I mean, I remember John Berkshire as the man who really brought LIFFE into being, and then of course Brian Williamson helped make it very much a part of the city. How would you like to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered for taking LIFFE forward into Europe. I think during my chairmanship, particularly in the early part of it, we took a conscious decision as a board, it was not solely my decision, to move aggressively into Europe, and our first contract launch was in September of '88, which was 5 months after I became chairman. And at that time, that was the Bund contract, and we all know what's happened since then. But I think the move into German products in '88 and '89, and that's been carried on in Italian lira, in ECU and Swiss francs and so on, I think that is what's given the Exchange its strength and its breadth that we are so conscious of today.
Of course, when we started back in 1982, I can remember going to Chicago, seeing the Board of Trade and the Merc there and thinking, we'll never get that big, we'll never gain the importance that Chicago had really carved out for itself. How do you now feel when you look across at Chicago or round to the other exchanges about the world?
I think we have a different role to play than either the Chicago exchanges or indeed any other exchange in the world. We are an international exchange, we have international in our name, and I think looking at our quality of our membership, the breadth of that membership, and the breadth of our products and all the different currencies in which we trade, I think it's the strength of that product range that makes us slightly different from Chicago. Chicago is very much a domestic market. Their strength is US dollar products. Ours is not. It's not sterling, or it's not German products, or French francs, or Swiss francs, and so on. It's a range of all those products and the interaction of each one.
I was reminded when the Governor of the Bank of England opened the trading floor here just a few weeks ago now, and he quoted from that rather interesting internal document from the bank, which basically said this LIFFE stuff might just catch on. Do you now feel that, that LIFFE really is an institution within the city, with everything that's entailed in that description?
I think the philosophy of becoming an institution was not one that LIFFE sought. When we first started, we wanted to be slightly non-establishment, to try to be individualistic.
Those stripy jackets didn't go down a bomb to start with, did they?
I think we've achieved that. We've created our own little niche. It fits in well with what the city is about. But I think LIFFE has introduced the city of the future rather than the city of the past. We've got some of our strength from the history of the city, but I think our strength is our innovation, our flair, our forward thinking. And we've taken the city forward, I think, into the 90s and hopefully strongly into the next century.
When the 20th anniversary celebrations take place into the next century, what do you think the then chairman will have cause to be pleased about?
Well, he hopefully will invite me back to enjoy those celebrations with him.
With a glass of vintage champagne.
But I think in another 10 years' time, I think we'll see quite a different exchange than the one we have at the moment. Our strength at the moment, in fact, any exchange anywhere in the world's strength at the moment, is money products or bond products or equity products. I think over the next 5 years, much of that is going to change. I think as currencies become closer together, we may well have a single currency within Europe. I think we as an exchange will have to look outwardly to new products, possibly in insurance or in shipping or in freight or whatever. And I think the product range that we will list in 10 years' time will be quite different in many ways than we have today.
David Burton, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
If I can turn now to Michael Jenkins, Chief Executive of LIFFE. Michael, let me ask you first of all, how do you feel in your new home?
Well, I think, we're delighted actually it's worked so well. I mean, we had mixed feelings, as you know. I mean, we felt the Royal Exchange was where we started, and I think all of us were very fond of it. But I think now we're here, I think particularly the members find that they've got so much more room, the facilities are so much better, that I don't think there are any regrets.
It's funny, I mean, I remember in the days leading up to the move from the Royal Exchange down here, there was a real feeling of sadness to be leaving. And yet now it seems like ages ago. It seems like we've always been here.
Yeah, so I think we talked about the 5th anniversary. I mean, it may seem a long time ago. To me, it seems just yesterday. And I think these anniversaries pile up with increasing frequency, which is slightly alarming.
What about the new trading floor now? It's a wonderful floor. It's a wonderful floor to work on. It can be changed. You can rebuild it as new contracts come on, or as lines of sight need to be modified. What sort of feedback are you getting from the membership about this floor?
Well, I think we've always had to have a floor that you can rebuild, and you have to rebuild it over a weekend. So we did that in the Royal Exchange very many times. And in some ways, it's slightly more difficult now because it's a more technologically advanced floor. I mean, you really have to ask the members, but I think I've been quite pleased, I think, on the whole, that there have been a number of teething problems and we've had some changes to make, but on the whole, everything's worked and worked pretty well. And I think, if you ask, that's the general consensus amongst the members.
Without sounding unduly cynical, it was a lovely surprise, wasn't it, that on day one everything just happened?
Well, maybe a surprise to the outsider. To us, of course, having seen all the people, particularly over the weeks before, in the sort of meticulous attention to detail, it wasn't really a surprise, although I would grant you there's always an element of luck on these things, and I think luck was on our side.
Luck was on our side even getting the traders in that morning, wasn't it? Because
yes.
there were train delays and heaven knows what.
Well, I remember waking up at about 6 o'clock, putting on the television news, and hearing that all the mainline stations were closed. My sort of heart sank, I think, after all this, there we were going to have the governor possibly, but nobody else. But as it happened, everybody turned up.
Now, in a few minutes' time, you and the chairman are going to be showing the royal party around the floor. What are the main things that you're going to point out? Obviously, particular individuals will be presented or introduced. What, if you like, are the main facets of the floor that you're going to draw to their attention?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that it would be interesting to know what their interest is.
What catches their eye.
What catches their eye.
Yeah.
Because I think this is probably the first time the Queen's ever visited a live exchange. I mean, she went to the stock exchange many years ago, but that was in the evening, not when it was actually operating. So I don't know what preconceptions the Queen and the Duke may have, but I suspect that they will be interested in the diversity of the people we've got on the floor, where they come from, and the different roles they carry out. I think it's the people that they will be particularly interested to speak to and see.
There's a goodly sprinkling of locals, isn't there?
Oh yes, well, they're a very substantial proportion of our total floor population.
Is that something that you'll be drawing the Queen's and the Duke's attention to? The fact that we're not just talking about people working for the big institutions, although of course they're represented in strength, but there are individuals who are really quite literally doing their own thing.
Well, I think it's always a surprise, certainly a surprise outside North America, that you actually, on an exchange like this, which turns over 50 billion a day, that you actually have individual members using their own money. And I think it's rather a surprise that there is room for that sort of participant in these large financial markets.
You heard the chairman a few moments ago talking about LIFFE's moves into Europe, LIFFE's position, if you like, in the global marketplace that we now have. What's your vision? How do you see the exchange developing over the next few years?
Well, I think we have to remember that we are part of the city, and I think the fact we're international, I think, does reflect the fact that's what the city is. I mean, we follow, in some ways, the cash markets. So I think it's probably, whilst the city remains international, I hope that we will as well. But I think probably the chairman said it all. I mean, I think we are there to provide the sort of facilities that our members want, where they can help them make money.
And are you looking forward to the 20th anniversary celebrations?
Oh, I don't really look quite so far ahead. I'm looking forward to the 10th. But don't forget we're not there yet.
I look forward to seeing you then. Michael Jenkins, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And you join us now back live, looking from the outside of the exchange towards the entrance, the Dowgate Street entrance, where the Queen will be arriving in just a few moments. The red carpet already in place. The police, of course, waiting. Security has been stringent throughout the morning in anticipation of this royal visit. Waiting in the entrance hall will be the chairman of LIFFE and Mrs. Burton, chief executive of LIFFE and Mrs. Jenkins, and also little Charlotte Henry, the daughter of the chairman of the floor committee, who will be presenting a bouquet to the Queen. The Queen will pass through the atrium here and then or through the entrance, I should say, and then up an escalator into the atrium of the Cannon Street building itself. This building, which you might not realize to look at it, stands, would you believe, on part of what used to be a Roman governor's palace. That was what was underneath Cannon Street Station, dating back to the 1st or 2nd century AD. Now it is a palace of quite a different kind, a palace of glass and marble, of steel and chrome, and certainly fitted out as only a royal occasion would warrant. Everything in sight has been cleaned and polished, everything has been made absolutely perfect for this very, very special day. This is, if you like, the view that the floor will have of Her Majesty. She'll be looking through one of the two central panels there, down at the immediately down at the busy gilt and short sterling pits, and then further across, of course, at the other end, the various European derivative products and the German products which have been doing so well. This trading floor, as I was saying a few moments ago, 25,000 square feet in size. There we see the LIFFE officials in their pale blue jackets standing in what's known as the pulpit. From there they can look down on the individual pits and ensure that everything is being conducted properly and orderly, in an orderly fashion, and indeed as it should be. Here is the royal car arriving. And the Queen is greeted by the Lord Mayor, the Right Honourable Sir Brian Jenkins, and Mr. Sheriff John Perring, and by the sword bearer Colonel John Ansell. The Queen and the Duke now coming in to the London International Financial Futures and Options Exchange. The Queen is introduced to David Burton, the chairman of LIFFE. Mrs. Burton. Chairman and his wife introduced to the Duke. Now the Chief Executive, Michael Jenkins, presented, and Mrs. Jenkins. And now, a very, very special day in the life of Charlotte Henry. From here, the royal party will pass up one of the longest escalators in Europe, and a feature of the building of which Life are particularly proud. The Queen now, accompanied by the chairman, passing through the building, which of course is a Speyhawk development, and Speyhawk, I think, can be justly proud of the results of the millions of pounds which they invested in what is, after all, a very exciting development on a very important and historical part of London, standing as it does over Cannon Street Station. Massive steel girders support the building at this point, and even when trains are passing underneath, neither the royal party now nor anybody else in the building feels so much as a murmur of vibration. From here, the Queen goes up the staircase, and we'll lose sight of her for a moment and rejoin her as she comes into the visitors' gallery to meet members of the Board of Life and also to view trading. Was there ever such a sight before a monarch's eyes? The chairman, David Burton, pointing out some of the salient features of the trading floor, explaining to the Queen the way that trading is conducted. And out of the window of our commentary position here, I can hear that by an amazing coincidence, trading has intensified quite noticeably since Her Majesty went to the window of the visitors' gallery there. The volume really rising quite sharply. The Queen, of course, always takes a very real and positive interest in any institution or organisation that she visits. And we have no doubt here that she will be very interested to learn of the complexities, after all, of futures and options trading. Michael Jenkins talking with the Duke, saying to me just a few minutes ago that he was going to be fascinated to see what was of interest to the royal party. The Queen and the Duke are looking down from a visitors' gallery which has actually speakers inside it, so that from the visitors' gallery you can hear what's going on the trading floor, or not, as you choose, by turning up or down the volume of the speakers. I'm sure that Her Majesty is aware of the buzz on the trading floor. Nonetheless, through the window of our commentary position here, it's coming through loud and clear, without any shadow of a doubt. David Burton very proud both of the new home for the Exchange and of the great progress that the Exchange has made over the last 10 years. Connecting those monitors you saw a moment ago and various other trading positions around the floor, there is in this building a cable network of approximately 850 miles of cable supporting the trading systems and the telecommunications in the building. The Royal Party quite clearly fascinated by what they see before them. Queen will no doubt be asking the chairman exactly what route they're going to follow when she walks around on the trading floor. A route I can reveal which has been very carefully mapped out to enable her to see as much as possible as what really goes on down here on the trading floor. And she's now presented is Nick Durlacher, one of the famous names of the city, of course, Durlacher. Nick joined Wed Durlacher Mordaunt, as it then was, in 1971, becoming a partner in 1972. Next to him, Nigel Ackerman, appointed in 1989 as a non-executive director of LIFFE. Married with 2 children. His interests include golf, cricket, squash, fishing and shooting. Next to him, Mark Highness of Warburg's, somebody who works, as you might say, for the chairman. Mark is managing director of SB Warburg Futures and Options and a director of Warburg Securities. He sat on the Membership and Rules Committee. Clara Furs, UBS Phillips and Drew Futures. Born in Canada of Dutch parents, she was educated in Colombia and Denmark and then in England. She read economics at the London School of Economics. Spent 3 years as a commodity broker, specialising, I'm told, in financial futures. Mark Bailey of JP Morgan Futures, elected to the Board of LIFFE in May 1990, recently appointed chairman of the Options Market Committee and deputy chairman of the Floor Committee. Currently heads a trading team of 26. Standing next to him, Stephanie Hanbury-Brown, also from JP Morgan Futures, elected to the Board of LIFFE in 1987. During her time as a LIFFE director, Mrs. Hanley-Brown has sat on the LIFFE Membership and Rules Committee, the LIFFE Product Strategy Committee and the LIFFE Automated Trading Committee. Laughter in the background there as the Duke of Edinburgh is to meet some of the LIFFE board members following along behind the Queen's party. Nicholas Harrison, a board member of LIFFE, spent 2 years as a local on the Chicago Board of Trade before he was elected to the LIFFE board in 1991. You have to be tough to trade on the Chicago Board of Trade, and you have to be particularly tough to trade there as a local. I think being particularly tall also helps quite considerably in that very lively market. Nick was educated at Tunbridge School and Merton College, Oxford. The Queen now presented to Christopher Henry, chairman of the Floor Committee. Chris, really, it can truly be said, one of the characters of the LIFFE market. Dennis Keegan, a board member, managing director of Solomon Brothers Inc. and co-head of European fixed income and equity businesses with primary responsibility for arbitrage trading. Dennis Keegan, also a member of the board of LIFFE. And also a member of Euroclear, incidentally. David Kite. David runs his own operation here, Kite Futures Limited, a company which has gone from strength to strength over the years with more and more traders wishing to join him. David, very much his own man, as anybody who knows him will testify. Not a man afraid to come forward in a hectic trading pit and stamp out a position for himself. Married with 2 young children, he's a keen footballer, playing regularly on the Sunday League side. No disrespect to him, I wouldn't like to be playing against him on a day when he's on form. Tony LaRoche, a board member of LIFFE, became a director of LIFFE in 1984. He served on the Floor Committee and currently serves as a member of the Membership and Rules Committee. Bernie Lind is a member of the Board of LIFFE, serving on the Strategy and Finance Committee, as well as holding membership of the IMM. He has over 25 years' experience in the financial markets, both in New York and London. Currently Director of Group Treasury for NatWest Bank. Michael Stiller, formerly of Cazenove, then of Tullet and Tokyo, otherwise known as TNT, elected to the Board of LIFFE first in May 1987. Now Managing Director of Tullet and Tokyo Futures and Options in Frankfurt. Jack Wigglesworth, Chairman of the Membership and Rules Committee. An institution in the city in his own right. Many will remember him on the gilts desk at Greenwell's back in the days when there was a trading floor in the stock exchange. One who was involved right in the early days as an original member of the Working Party, which was set up in 1980 to assess the feasibility at all of having a financial futures exchange in London. A real friend of the exchange, one who has worked tirelessly for the exchange over the years. Queen obviously interested to hear from him how this exchange came into being in the first place. Evelyn Wright, a director of GNI and a board member of LIFFE, serving until recently on the LIFFE Product Strategy Committee. John Young, another board member of LIFFE, joined Dean Witter in 1986, became a director of the company in 1988. He sat on various committees, including the disciplinary panels, the options, APT and Eurodollars committees. Worked continuously from the floor since LIFFE started. David Parry, of course, the divisional deputy chairman of the London Traded Options Market, LTOM, as we can see his badge very clearly there. London Traded Options, just explaining to the Queen, of course, that LTOM have now happily joined LIFFE on the trading floor, coming here on the 3rd of February, and of course next month, when the various final details of the merger are completed, LIFFE and LTOM will be trading together as a merged entity on the trading floor, although already they happily coexist. Queen now presented to Roger Barton, Managing Director of Business Development for LIFFE, another member of LIFFE who's been involved with the exchange since its inception in 1982, currently responsible for markets, product and strategic development of the exchange. He used to have responsibility for the development and operation of the computer systems, which is, in an exchange as complex as this, is a job which anybody would have to approach with a considerable degree of experience and indeed of expertise. No doubt explaining to the Queen some of the complexities of what goes on behind the scenes here at LIFFE. Queen now meets John Foyle, Managing Director of Operations. His responsibilities include trading operation, rules and regulations, the membership departments and the legal and taxation fields. Another who joined LIFFE right at the outset, he joined in 1981 at the inception of the programme to develop and open the exchange. In those days, LIFFE was in the Royal Exchange, a place set aside for merchants to trade upon. How indeed merchants do trade upon their trading floor now here in Cannon Bridge. Queen obviously showing a very lively interest in the workings of the exchange. Having seen the trading floor, I imagine she's keen to know what goes on behind the scenes, how exactly everything is made to run so smoothly, as indeed it does. Tricia Duncan, her official title is Government Liaison Manager for LIFFE. I'm sure she won't mind me saying that she is one of the people who has really worked tirelessly to ensure that everything on this visit goes as smoothly as it already has. Worked very closely with both the chairman and the chief executive to ensure that everything that they wish to happen does indeed happen. She's also a freeman of the City of London. Used to work before coming to LIFFE at Goldman Sachs on the international arbitrage desk, and before that at the stock exchange. There's an air of hushed expectancy on the floor, and when she comes onto the floor, which will be up in the top left-hand corner of the screen as you're looking as you're looking at it now, then Chris Henry, the chairman of the floor committee, will, shall we say, draw the attention of the traders to the fact that the Queen is on the floor. I hear whispers for silence. There's Chris Henry waiting. Queen just passing down now from level 2 to level 1. She'll walk in now through the entrance which the traders themselves used every day, the market entrance, as you might say. And on the left of your screen, she will see a specially commissioned statue called Open Outcry, executed in bronze by the sculptor Neil Lawson Baker. One of those very lifelike bronzes of the sort that we see more and more these days. I believe there's one in New York of a gentleman hailing a taxi, and every now and then in snow or something, a taxi driver will come over and stop for it. Nobody knows yet whether anybody's tried to trade with that particular bronze. And just about now coming onto the trading floor. The chairman, I think, warning her that it might be a noisy reception.
I think today you've surpassed yourselves with that noise. Thank you very much indeed. Your Majesty, on behalf of all of us gathered here, I would like to thank you for honouring us with your presence today. It also gives us the greatest pleasure to welcome Your Royal Highness. With your permission, I would like to say a few words to express the feelings of us all, because today we celebrate a special event, the bringing together of two of the city's major markets onto a new trading floor. Both markets are comparative newcomers to the City of London. The London Traded Options Market started trading in 1978 within the structure of the London Stock Exchange. LIFFE was set up as an independent exchange some 4 years later, drawing together through its membership participants from the various cash markets operating in the city, both domestic and from overseas. Over the past decade, the combined volume of transactions has grown dramatically, and today we boast a daily turnover of around £50 billion, with the broadest range of financial and equity-based products of any exchange in the world. Much of this success is due to our members, who are represented on the floor today by more than 1,500 qualified trading and operational staff. It is their contribution that has encouraged the market's dramatic growth and success. Together, LIFFE and the London Traded Options Market will, we hope, open a new and exciting chapter both for the combined market and for the City of London. Your Majesty, to mark the start of this new chapter, it would give us the greatest honour if you would inaugurate the new market, which is to be known as the London International Financial Futures and Options Exchange, by unveiling the commemorative plaque. Well, thank you, Your Majesty, for unveiling the plaque. I would now like to ask the Chairman of the Floor Committee, Mr. Christopher Henry, to offer you a memento of your visit.
Your Majesty, may I offer you this gift from the floor? It is a trading badge. It conveys the right to trade and is inscribed with your unique mnemonic. We hope that you find the mnemonic very appropriate.
Your Majesty, may I now invite you to tour the trading floor with me. Thank you very much.
And so the Queen, armed, as we might say, with her trader's badge, which is inscribed, by the way, E2R, now descends onto the trading floor to meet some of the traders, some of them local, some of them working for institutions, and some of the floor staff as well. Queen meets Steve Swain, trading manager at LIFFE, joined the exchange in February 1985, having previously been an equities dealer on the stock exchange. Steve will be one of those who accompanies the Queen as she moves around the trading floor, meeting various people along the way. I know he's looking forward to this very much indeed. Started here as an options floor manager, then became floor manager. Queen first of all meets Rita Huey, a qualified trader specializing in options at First Continental Trading. Joined first in 1988, having previously worked in Florida for a large corporation in computers. Has progressed from a yellow jacket to being a successful options trader. As I was saying a moment ago, many of the traders here on the floor started out as yellow jackets and then worked their way up. Chris Henry escorting the Queen as she moves along the floor beneath the Euro Mark option pit there. Meet Anthony Morris, a yellow jacket with Lloyds Bank Financial Futures. Previously, he was performing a backup role in Lloyd's dealing room. He hopes to complete his trading exams in 3 months and then, we might say, cast off his yellow jacket and take on either a red jacket as the livery that many life traders have, or one of the multicolored, stripy or other colored jackets that the individual institutions give to their traders. Queen obviously fascinated, I suspect, as much by the youth and exuberance as the colour of the audience, who are so pleased and so honoured to see her. A chair as she's introduced to David Cantor, a qualified trader, a local who specialises in options. Joined, he tells me, 1 week before the crash in 1987, although there's no suggestion that it was his arrival here which precipitated the crash. Went as a local, as trading on his own account some 2 years ago, specialising in options. Prior to arriving in England, David Cantor, I'm told, actually ran a fast food outlet. So he's obviously experienced in taking orders and executing them very quickly. Queen moving now between the booths, which act, if you like, as miniature offices for the firms which trade on LIFFE. Everyone with literally hundreds of telephone lines going all over the world. A special pathway, as you see, has been set aside for the royal party. And now she meets David Thresher, qualified trader specialising in options with JP Morgan. That's the green and, call it pale green, call it yellow lapelled jacket that he wears there. You can see his JPM badge quite clearly. It's a trading badge of that type, which has been given to the Queen, presented to the Queen today. I say of that type because the one that she has is made of solid silver, and so far as I'm aware, no one else on the floor has a trading badge made of solid silver. If they do, then good luck to them later in the day. Queen now moves on, meets John Sussex, another local of Sussex Futures Limited, and what a reception from those around, isn't that wonderful? John began trading on the exchange when it opened, and has since set up his own company with Hugh Morgan in 1983. He's now the major shareholder and trades in most of the major contracts. It's hard work being a local on this exchange. It's your own money that's at risk. It's your livelihood that's on the line if you get it right or if you get it wrong. These young men and women know that they hold very, very responsible positions. There's often an aura of fun, sometimes of irreverence about this market. It conceals perhaps a very deep seriousness underlying it. They all know the very serious nature of what they're doing and how any mistake could cost them or their companies a great deal of money. The Queen now meeting Keith Penny, qualified trader with Alpha Financial Futures, their very distinctive blue jacket with red and white stripes on the pockets and on the sleeves as well. Next along the line, John Chitty, a member of the Membership and Rules Committee, working with Refco Overseas Limited. Began on the Life floor in 1982. It's amazing to consider the number of people on this trading floor who started right back at the outset of trading. There was a feeling then, will this exchange survive? Will it catch on? Will it prosper? No doubt about it. David Morgan and Ted Ursa, two of the real characters of this exchange. David Morgan, I know he won't mind me describing him as one of the senior gentlemen on the trading floor. But don't let those grey hairs fool you. He's got a very lively and a very fast mind. Been at life as long as anybody can remember, and a passionate believer in this market and in what it stands for. Ted Ursa, standing next to him, of Solomon Brothers. Ted, a very strong character, a strong personality all round, working for one of the larger, to say the least, American financial institutions. Very experienced on life, as those grey hairs betray. A fine fellow, but one who, like David Morgan, believes passionately in this exchange and has helped to make it the success which it undoubtedly is today. We've been moving along now between the banks of monitors and screens to meet Neil Hooper, another local, Cannon Bridge Clearing Limited. Neil also has been trading on this floor since its inception. He's been a local since 1984 and specializes in the FTSE contract, the contract for the FTSE 100 index. Alan Dickinson, floor manager, qualified trader, a local on the Membership and Rules Committee and company director of Cannon Bridge Clearing Limited. Now chairman of Cannon Bridge Clearing, which has some 50 staff working both on the floor of life and on the IPE. The Queen obviously enjoying meeting these lively characters. Looks of fascination on the faces of the traders who've been asked to stand back to give the Queen a little bit of room as she moves around on this trading floor. More applause as she meets Richard Stokes, qualified trader, a local, chairman of the Long Gilt Futures Pit Committee and a floor committee member. The pit committees, the Long Gilt Futures Pit Committee, of which Richard Stokes is chairman, pit committees, if you like, regulate the small communities, which is really how you can describe each of these pits, a community in its own right. Queen now meets Alistair Nielsen, floor manager and qualified trader with Barclays de Zoet Wed Futures Limited. It says on my notes, perhaps BZW Futures Limited would be a better way of describing them. Both Richard Stokes and Alistair Nielsen, to whom the Queen is talking now, you can just see Alistair Nielsen's BZW badge there, another badge of the type that the Queen has got. Both of them very experienced traders on this floor.
We're now entering the
Queen now moving through to the LTOM area, the London Traded Options Market. LTOM, who came here on February the 3rd, and delighted we were to welcome them. LTOM and LIFFE to merge, of course, as we all know, and that merger to be completed on March the 20th. Both the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh have no doubt had the differences explained to them between the futures and options contracts on the one hand and the traded options markets contracts, derivatives, product-based, individual equity product-based, of course, on the other. The Queen is now introduced to Richard Hugh, a qualified LTOM trader with James Capel. You can see the C on his breast pocket there. The very distinctive James Capel, we might say very patriotically coloured red, white and blue jacket. Richard began as a blue button when LTOM opened, and was indeed the blue button to the dealer who executed the very first trade there. Lisa Simpkins is a price operator in trading operations on LTOM. Joined LTOM some 2.5 years ago, having previously been with a shipbroker. Her responsibilities are to enter public limit orders, trades, price changes, and also to coordinate broker and market maker slips. The accurate price reporting and accurate and proper execution of deals, of course, a vital role in the proper functioning of any market, and LTOM is absolutely no exception in that respect. Queen now meets Andrew Weaver, another qualified LTOM trader with John Kirk Limited. Andrew joined Ackroyd's in 1984 on the LIFFE market, then left to become an option market maker on LTOM. Specialising, amongst other things, I think, in FTSE options. We were talking a few minutes ago about the FTSE future. LTOM, of course, also trade FTSE options. And indeed, the FTSE pits, if you like, straddle the gap between LIFFE and LTOM. Everything here on the floor has been very, very carefully designed to ensure that there is a logical and practical grouping of the various pits. What a wonderful sense of occasion. Queen passes before more of the literally hundreds of booths. I'm sure Chris Henry pointing out that much of the rubbish has been cleared away from the floor. The old slips on which trades have been recorded, which traders will often throw from one to the other. She meets now Martin Parrott, floor manager and qualified trader with Banque Nationale de Paris, BNP, been involved in futures trading since he left school 13 years ago. Began trading sugar and then moved to the LIFFE market in 1982, as so many here have. Appointed a floor manager with BNP. one of the very many international organisations here on the trading floor. Let us not forget that this is the London International Financial Futures and Options Exchange. European, North American, Far Eastern institutions, all represented, as of course are the locals whom we've seen trade on their own account. We're introduced to Sally Evans, a pit observer in the trading operations department. And also just beyond Sally there we can see James Cohn, a floor manager and qualified trader with Cargill Investor Services. The pit observer's role, Sally in the blue jacket, one of those responsible for ensuring orderly trading. James Cohn, floor manager of Cargill Investor Services, one of the largest privately held firms in the United States, is the ultimate parent company of that. Queen, no doubt fascinated to hear from Sally Evans just exactly how, from their pulpits, the Life staff ensure orderly markets. Guy Boardman, floor manager and a qualified trader at GNI Limited, Gerard and National if you like, joined GNI 6 years ago. He used to be a builder and has now progressed to floor manager of one of the largest floor operations on Life. Quite an achievement. And look at those banks of proud and happy faces as the Queen walks along. She's turning the corner now at the far end of the trading floor from our commentary position, down near where the German mark contracts are traded. And she's introduced, or just about to be introduced, I should say, to Barry Clark, the floor manager and qualified trader with the Istituto Bancario San Paolo di Torino. As I was saying, this is truly an international exchange. Andrew Whitelaw, floor manager with Deutsche Bank Capital Markets. And near us, you can, I think, just make out the UBS on the jacket of John Jones, a qualified trader with UBS Phillips & True. So there we are, standing in a line, an Italian institution, a German institution, and what is, after all these days, ultimately a Swiss institution, all of them represented here on this very international trading floor. Queen, I'm sure, interested to hear how this new trading floor compares with the old trading floor at the Royal Exchange, which we left, now it seems, such a long time ago. Certainly all the traders I've spoken to have been absolutely delighted with the improved conditions they have here, both on and off the floor. In a lively market, it's perhaps an overstatement to say that it's a joy to trade on, but it's certainly an extremely efficient place in which to work, and a very comfortable place in which to work as well. Queen now nearing the end of her visit to the trading floor. She's introduced to Tom Fays, another local. And nearest to us in the blue jacket, Steve Reynolds, with qualified trader with Talit and Tokyo, perhaps better known as TNT. Tom Fays, to whom she's talking now, another of the day one traders here. And Steve Reynolds, who joined TNT in 1982, spent 1986 working in Chicago at the Chicago Board of Trade to gain further experience there. Just taking a moment there to talk to another of the Life observers. Russell O'Mara, I think. I can't quite see his badge. Yes, it is. Another pit observer. Notice there the distinctive pale blue jacket.
So many faces, all eager for a review, all eager for a smile, all eager to meet the Queen.
Queen. Hip, hip, hip. Hip, hip, hip. Hip, hip, hip.
And on that note, Her Majesty the Queen leaves the trading floor of the London International Financial Futures and Options Exchange.